Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Richard. Those songs were great. I only cried a little bit during Danny Boy. Because he was told me he was going to sing Danny Boy. I'm like, oh, Danny Boy. That can be a very sad song, but you played it so beautifully, so thank you. Well, did anyone else go to the magic show last night across the street at the high school? Raise your hand, you and I went to the magic show at the high school, and it was great, wasn't it? We had a lot of fun. And I just woke up in the middle of the night thinking about that magic show and thinking, oh, I already wrote my talk, but I want to talk about the magic show because it was the first time I got to see a mentalist in real life. And you know, we always, when we have our history classes, the history of science of mind, we go back and we talk about Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, who was, I had to quickly this morning, like, yeah, he was born in 1802, a long, long time ago, and he is a person that we look at as the person who took us from the ideas of hypnotism and mentalists into the ideas of spiritual healing. So it was really fun to see a mentalist. And what she did, the woman who did it, it was great because, you know, in a magic show, it's all tricks, right? You can't tell it's sleight of hand, and you don't really know what they're doing, and they're pulling cards out and funny things out of the air and balls and bouncing and jumping. But she just stood there, and she got a couple up on stage that were, she said, I need a happily married couple to come up on stage. So she had them sit kind of far apart, maybe 15 or 20 feet apart. And what she did is she told them, now sit in these chairs and everyone could see them. They're far.
Your beads are
my beads.
staticky.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. And so she said, now, when I close your eyes and when I poke you on the shoulder, raise your hand. And so she walked over by the husband, and they both had their eyes closed. They were like 15 or 20 feet apart. She pokes the husband on the shoulder, and they both raised their hand.
No.
It was so interesting. And so she did some, you know, kind of repetition of things like that. And then at the end, she goes, okay, so open your eyes. And she said, now, did you feel me poke you? And they both said, oh, yes.
Wow.
And, you know, the crowd was really laughing because when the wife found out that the woman, the mentalist, had never even been near her, she couldn't believe it. She was really funny. She was like, what? So I just wanted to share that because, you know, it's perfect for St. Patrick's Day because we like to have a little bit of magic. And we always say, what we teach is not magic, but I have to say last night, looking at mentalists, it kind of looked like that was magic, at least. It was fun. And there were no tricks. It was just at the high school. It wasn't like when you see things on TV and you always go like, well, maybe that was real, or maybe not. Maybe it was virtual, whatever, generated by computers, so you don't really know. But it was real, and it was nice to see. So happy St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if everyone can see. Ruth Ann brought a couple of leprechauns this morning. So thank you. It was really cute that you brought those. And also someone, I won't say her name, said that she's not Irish, but she wore her green anyway. So, and that's the thing. The way that we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, it doesn't matter if you're Irish. In fact, I want to reassure everyone and let you know St. Patrick wasn't Irish either. You know, and as a matter of fact, I guess he wasn't even formally canonized, although he is known as the patron saint of Ireland. But that was so long ago, they didn't have that process of canonization even set up yet. So it's our holiday, and we can all enjoy it no matter what. Now, I grew up going to school, and there was a lot of anxiety about making sure that you were wearing green, because if you didn't, you'd get pinched. And I don't know if they allow things like that today. I think it might be called bullying. Right? And it kind of was bullying to whoever just, you know, if the parents didn't know what day it was bullying, but, you know, we're not going to pinch anybody. And the thing is about St. Patrick's, we laugh about it, but talk about how he had to drive the snakes out. Of course, there weren't any snakes. They were already gone or hadn't been there, I don't know. And, no, this is something I hadn't realized. He wasn't even the first missionary to bring Christianity to Ireland. It was already there. But he was sent in order to straighten them out.
Oh.
They were getting it all wrong. Because the Celtic Christian theologian who had been, I guess, setting up monasteries there, didn't believe in the concept of original sin. So they wanted to get that straightened out. They weren't following these papal doctrines. And also, this is always important, they also weren't teaching the right customs about who got to own the property in all the land and who got to inherit and how that was all going to go. So, you know, sometimes theology and politics get wrapped in together. But I thought it was interesting reading a little more about St. Patrick, is even though that was kind of his decree, his mission, once he got there, things turned out a little differently. He actually is known, and I think somewhat appreciated, for the fact that he didn't actually eliminate all of the older customs. And in fact, what we think of as a Celtic cross, which is kind of a cross with a circle on the top, is a merging of the ancient symbol of the sun, S-U-N, with the newer Christian symbol of the sun, S-U-N. I thought that was interesting. So St. Patrick's not really a bad guy. We certainly enjoy, you know, thinking about him and celebrating this whole holiday today. And the thing is, when you think about all the arguments, and in a way, now that there's peace in Ireland, it's interesting to look back. When Richard said that the song Danny Boy was originally something Londonderry, it struck me because back in the 70s I had gone to Ireland and we visited Londonderry, and driving down the street with our kids in the back seat, there were guns, soldiers with guns all up and down the street. And crossing in, it's like, why are you coming? We're just bringing our kids on a tour of Ireland and we wanted to see it. But it was quite different than it is today, where there's that peace. And the thing is, when you think about these theological arguments, and certainly for us here, I'm sure for me, it was hard to see what was the big argument between Catholicism and Protestantism. It just didn't make that much sense to me, ever. And now we know in other parts of the world they're having big arguments about religion and who's right and who's wrong, not just different faiths, not just say Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, but also within each religion, there's also arguments going on. And for us here, sitting in our viewpoint, we just say, well, there's only one thing. There's only spirit. So all of these arguments about theology, from our viewpoint, are just the result of people having different points of view. It's almost like that story about describing an elephant. You know, they have a story, I think it's like 5 blind men go and each one touches a different part of the elephant and then describes what it is they're feeling, and one's got the trunk, and one's got the foot, and one's got the side, and one's got the tail. And they all describe it, but from their descriptions, that wouldn't be enough to convey the whole story of what is an elephant. And I feel, from our viewpoint, that's kind of what goes on a lot with our disagreements about what is the true idea about spirit. I wish that I could say, here, we teach the truth, but actually I can only say, here, we're all getting together to try to discover the truth and try to learn more about the truth. And we have some spiritual practices that can help us on their way. Now, when you leave today, I hope, or maybe while you're eating, I hope you'll pick up in the lobby a printout that I brought of the Prayer of St. Patrick. No, not the Prayer of St. Patrick.
The blessing you sent on.
Yeah,
email.
the Irish blessing, and on the bottom of that is a little Prayer of St. Patrick that I thought it was good because, and I wanted to share it with you because that little saying at the bottom is an illustration of how no matter what one religion's viewpoint is, or one person practicing a religion's viewpoint is, when they go deep, they come to the same place of universality. Can I just borrow that for a minute? Thanks. So on the bottom, you'll find that it says, "Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be." I just thought that was very beautiful. It didn't, it didn't matter what his religion was, or he was this, or he was that. When you come to the very essence of things, you see that there's something shared. The more, I don't know, well, honestly, I wasn't going to talk about St. Patrick too much today, so I think I'm not going to read you the whole entire other St. Patrick's prayer because my talk is really about new beginnings. And so right now, let's have a new beginning. So before I begin again, first I have to ask you a few questions. So, what kind of a bow cannot be tied? A rainbow.
A rainbow.
Okay. Now, why shouldn't you iron a 4-leaf clover?
Something about the pressing.
You don't want to press your luck.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where are you guaranteed absolutely to find gold on St. Patrick's Day? In the dictionary? And why did the leprechaun recycle his pot of gold? He wanted to go green. Anyway, there's a lot of St. Patrick's Day jokes, and I think in a way it's a little bit of revenge because so many of the leprechaun stories are what little pranksters they were. So it's fitting that we have jokes about leprechauns, because the leprechauns always have a reputation for playing jokes on humans when they're not making shoes. I guess they were supposed to do that too. And so leprechauns fall into the category of minor, small, mischief-making little fairies, right? And one of the famous tales about leprechauns is that if you can catch a leprechaun, you can make it give you 3 wishes. Now, I don't know, has anybody here seen Darby O'Gill and the Little People? Anyone ever seen that? Okay, put that on your to-do list. It's a Disney movie. It was made for kids. Oh, when I was a kid, it was scary, but it was also interesting. But I found out that Walt Disney actually went to Ireland, and he spent months researching Irish folk tales before they made that movie, which surprised me. So I think it's a good movie. It's really out of date, but still. So what? But leprechauns are not the only mythical fairy beings that could grant wishes. This idea of some creature or something that could grant 3 wishes was I think it was maybe worldwide. You know, there are stories of magical talking fish that could grant wishes. Of course, we all know about genies and bottles that could grant wishes. And I guess there are even stories about mermaids. If you caught a mermaid, you could get 3 wishes. And over again, if you read these stories, the first wish that the person makes is always really silly. You know, like the wish, I had the biggest beard in the world. You know, and then the guy will have a beard that fills up his whole house and flows out into the street. And then, of course, what does wish number 2 have to be? Oh, I want to get rid of my beard. And wish number 3 is like, oh, I don't have any beard at all anymore. I just want it to be back the way it was. So over and over in these stories, you hear this underlying theme of people made crazy, silly wishes, and then they had to spend the rest of their wishes putting things back in the right order, getting back to the beginning all over again, and learning some kind of lesson. And I think, you know, that you could think of it in a negative way, the idea that don't step out of what you have now. Be content. If you're a fisherman, be a fisherman. Don't be making a wish to be a king. If you're, whatever you have, be contented with what you have. But I don't really think that we have to look at these stories that way. And what is a story? A story is something that emerges, a fairy tale. It emerges out of our whole cultural consciousness, our shared. That's why we have similar stories all over the world. You can also look at these stories from the science of mind point of view as teaching us to think before we make choices in life, to think it through. You know, we don't practice magic. I'm not going to tell you that you should, like some people apparently do, set up a leprechaun trap. I guess people do it like the Easter Bunny, maybe, and get candy for kids to find candy. But I never did that. But I sort of, when I heard about it, I was like, well, that could be fun. But the thing is that although we don't practice magic, sometimes we see miracles through our use of these spiritual principles, and it feels like magic. You know, it's not, but it feels like it. In the same way that if you just happen to step outside and you see the beautiful moon shining in the sky, it is magical. And not all treatment, not all spiritual practices are going to have instantaneous results. I was listening to a talk by Ernest Holmes. I have a little set of his talks, and I listen to them when I'm in the car just driving. So it's funny, I've heard a lot of them over and over again, but when I listen to them, it's like, oh yeah. So he was just saying, what we really need is to have trust in God, to have trust in the process. And he gave the example of a chicken sitting on a hen. Why does a chicken sit on a hen? Does it know that it has to sit there for 21 days? No. Does it, is there anything special that the chicken does to make the chick, or know that it has to go through this process? The process is not created by the chicken. The process just exists. So there's a trust that if a chicken lays an egg, if a hen sits on that egg and turns it once in a while, then there will be a baby chick. Some of these things are just natural processes. And he was just using that as an example, that when we do have a desire, maybe it's a desire for greater prosperity or greater health or more energy, we need to trust that this is going to unfold for us in the perfect time, that we don't have to force it. It doesn't happen just because of us. The thing that we do is make the decision. So going back to the story of the wishes, it's a matter of getting settled in your mind which wish. Well, if you're like me, you've got like a zillion wishes. It's like if my magazine comes in and I see, oh, I like that shirt that the person in the magazine is wearing. It's like, oh, I wish I could have that. Or I saw that someone made soda bread this morning. It's like, oh, I wish I had made soda bread. We can have like a million wishes. But when we're talking about settling down using perhaps meditation practice or a visioning practice, we can sort through those and sift through those and come to a recognition of what speaks to our heart. What is our heart's desire? When we're more clear on our heart's desire, that is something that we can work with through affirmation and treatment. As Ernest Holmes puts it, setting down a time each day to just remind ourselves that this is the perfect expression, experience that we would like to enjoy, and then allowing it to unfold. And it might unfold in a very predictable way, or it might unfold in an unexpected and instant way. So, just going back to the mentalist, she said she wanted to get a couple that was, really kind of close to make it easier. She explained it. It'll be easier for me to work with two people that are already close in order to do that. And when I was originally writing this talk, before I got myself sidetracked, and of course, since it's a day celebrating, the Irish way of being, then it's okay to get totally sidetracked in a story. That's my opinion, because that's what I learned. So it turns out, actually, somebody wrote an article that I found, and I thought it was great. It's like, I wrote this name of it somewhere. Oh, it was in Nature magazine, called "Strangers Are Just Relatives You Haven't Met." Because they calculated that if you go back only 20 generations, only 400 years, mathematically speaking, you can have 1 million ancestors. 1 million. So we're talking about St. Patrick being 1,200 years ago, or something like that. That's 3 times that far. So they said if you go back 50 generations, you can have a quadrillion ancestors. Except there have never been that many humans alive in the whole known history or speculated history of the earth. There's never been a quadrillion. That's, a billion billions or 1,000 billions. It doesn't matter. The point is, mathematically, they're able to figure out that we're all interrelated. It has to be the way it is. And so,
We're all cousins.
Hello, cousin.
it's just the truth. And so this so-called scientific or mathematical discovery is actually just one of the many discoveries that gives more and more backup to our New Thought claim that everything and everyone is related. We're connected. We really are. And so when we here as Americans, and some of us came here as adults or as children, and some of us, our families have been here so long we have no clue where they came from, maybe on a boat, or in some cases maybe they walked from Asia, we don't know. But and I told this story before, that one of my great-grandfathers was Irish. He came over after the famine, not during it. And he immigrated to California, where he married my great-grandmother, who had been born in Encinitas. And this is where some of this luck comes in. So her father had originally immigrated from Scotland when he was 3 years old. So from Scotland, he immigrated to Canada, actually, with his mother and father. Only when they were 3 miles offshore, there was a shipwreck. And their ship was lost at sea. And what would that be? Great grandfather's father was apparently a very good swimmer and was able to swim his wife and son to safety 3 miles to the Canadian shore. So I did actually see a newspaper article about this, but it just makes me go, oh, I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah.
Right? And then not only that, but he did survive 7 battles in the Civil War, which is like, well, I'm lucky to be here. And not only that, but afterwards, when he was a surveyor in New York, he fell down a well. But luckily, a woman found him, and I guess she got him out of the well or called somebody for help. And they got married and moved to California. So it's like, oh, I'm lucky to be here. And the fact is, I don't know that much about my family history. I just know that's a very odd, funny story. Anyway, they homesteaded in Encinitas, so I'm lucky to be here. I wasn't raised in Encinitas, but I know that every single person has stories like that in your background, whether you know about it or not. And they are. you know, we could say you make your own luck, but on the other hand, they're really magical stories. And they just go to show how amazing life is and how here people have come from so many countries. It's really amazing. And when if you do know your own story, or when you get to know other people's stories about coming to America, they are amazing and magnificent. So, and I think for each person, in some way, there was a wish involved. Some kind of a dream, some kind of a desire that eventually unfolded into a new beginning here. And that's what we need to learn from St. Patrick's Day. So when Richard said he was going to sing Danny Boy, I was like, oh, that's such a sad song. But I always think of it also as a goodbye song. It's a goodbye song. Setting out on a journey. And that also is why I wanted to give you this, the Irish blessing. And it reads, I'm sure you probably have heard this. It's very sweet. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. It is both a goodbye and a welcome home, you know, so I think it's just beautiful. And we are always in this moment, when we're always making new decisions, when we're always able to start something new. And as Morgan was reading in her inspirational reading, we have the ability to sort out what it is from the past that we would like to discard and how we would like to we can decide how we would like to fill our lives with something new, something brilliant, something beautiful, with love and prosperity. So that's all I have to say about St. Patrick's Day. It's a fun day, and I think we circled around to
Yes.
new beginnings. This
Yes.
is the day. So happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Now,